3 spine-chilling Valentine's Day horrors, revealed tales of sinister love and cursed encounters. Jessica's heart pounded in her chest as she dressed her daughter, Lily, for the much-anticipated school dance. The sparkly red dress, a heart-shaped pendant nestled in the fabric, promised magic and joy. But outside their warm home, a different story brewed. Whispers of the local florist's disappearance snaked through Maplewood, twisting every friendly hello into a cold reminder of the lurking shadows. The neighborhood seemed so perfect, yet beneath the surface lay a chill. Jessica couldn't shake a chill made sharper by her phone buzzing with a message that sent ice down her spine. "I can see you, Jessica. I know your secret." The words clawed at her mind. Her pulse raced. Was it a prank? A cruel joke? Or something far worse? She shoved the growing dread aside, reminding herself that today was about Lily. But as the excitement surged through the school gym, festooned with red and pink decorations, unease settled in her belly like an anchor. When the clock struck the hour, her little girl was suddenly gone, swallowed by the throng of laughter and light. Panic struck like a lightning bolt. Jessica pushed through the crowd, eyes darting wildly. A little boy stumbled past her, giggling, while parents snapped photos of their children's joyful faces. Yet all Jessica could hear was the pounding of her own heart drowning out the music. Where was Lily? She darted down the dimly lit corridors of Maplewood Elementary, her feet echoing against the cold tiles. Here, the laughter faded into an unsettling silence, and shadows crept like fingers across the walls. This place, once filled with memories of joy, now twisted into something haunting. And then she saw Mrs. Davidson, the seemingly sweet old lady next door, her voice as syrupy as the fading day. "In moments of fear, dear, trust the ones you think you know the most." The word slithered into Jessica's mind, leaving a residue of unease. Memories of strange gatherings and odd looks from the neighbors flooded back, a warning she wished she had heeded. But there was no time for lingering doubts. As she roamed deeper into the school, the dim lights flickered. The cheerful colors of the Valentine's decor turned grim, shadows twitching. It felt all wrong. Every corner darkened with a sense of foreboding, every corner concealed another secret. Jessica felt the weight of eyes upon her, a chilling sensation of being watched. Who, or what, lurked behind the veneer of neighborly smiles? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Pushing through her fear, Jessica felt something drawing her toward a door marked staff only. Memories of her first classroom flooded her mind, now shrouded in dread. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door, stepping into a forgotten realm. There, in the shadows, she found relics of the past, dust-coated and haunting. But it was the photo that shook her, a picture of Lily carelessly tucked away, surrounded by crumbling memories. Then Jessica heard her daughter's voice, soft and inviting, echoing from the gloom. "Mommy?" But the tone felt wrong, threaded with a chilling edge. Who was this that had her daughter? The darkness thickened, and panic surged back, clawing at her throat. In that moment, frozen and fearful, the question loomed: how much can you truly trust those you think you know? And what hidden terrors await in the shadows of love? The air thickened as Jessica took an unsteady step forward, her breath hitching in her throat. "Lily?" she called, her voice wavering as it bounced off the cold, empty walls. Each syllable felt like a plea, her fear clawing higher when the voice that responded was not her daughter's. "Mommy, come find me." The call echoed, laughter laced into the edges, but it wasn't the innocent sound of her child. Chills danced down Jessica's spine as her instincts screamed for her to flee. Every nerve in her body told her something was very wrong. She hesitated, caught between the instinct to bolt and the deep, lurking dread of leaving without her daughter. Gritting her teeth, she pushed deeper into the shadows, the flickering fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, as unstable and menacing as the environment around her. The room twisted like a funhouse mirror, memories of laughter distorted by the growing unease. She gripped the doorframe tighter, nails digging into the peeling paint, unwilling to let it go. Where was everyone? Questions swirled chaotically in her mind while she moved, barely feeling the chill of the air that now felt suffocating. As she ventured further, the echo of her footsteps seemed louder, like a countdown. And then she spotted something small, delicate, shimmering just beyond the hall's end. A heart-shaped pendant. Lily's pendant. The air felt electric, thick with a tension that stung her skin as she knelt down, fingers trembling as they brushed against the pendant lying in a puddle of darkness. It wasn't just abandoned, it was a command. Come to me, it whispered in the language of a mother's heart. But who commanded her? Before she could process the thought, a sudden noise jolted her back, a faint giggle that sent icy tendrils of terror coiling around her. "Mommy, I'm waiting." The taunt tainted the air, and Jessica felt her stomach drop, a sickening twist of dread. "No. I'm coming, Lily," she shouted, forcing herself to move once more. She followed the sound, heart pounding like a war drum. Desperation fueled her as she turned another corner, the corridor stretching endlessly, illuminated only by the sporadic flicker of dying lights overhead. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw something shift. A shadow? A figure? It lingered in the periphery, just out of sight, drawing further back into the darkness as she approached. Panic surged, and instinct pushed her forward, unwilling to lose sight of the lead. She reached the end of the hallway, breathless and trembling. The room unfolded before her, a dance of red and pink faded into a nightmarish maze. There, in the center, was an old wooden stage, draped in memories of past performances. But it wasn't the nostalgia that gripped her, it was the sight of the audience that filled her with horror. Figures sat gathered, they wore masks carved in grotesque visages, eyes hollow, their laughter a chorus of delight twisted into something sinister. All were strangers, yet familiar. And at the center of all those sparkling eyes, Lily stood surrounded by the shadows, entranced, her eyes wide and vacant. "Look, Mommy," she called, but there was no joy. The light in her voice had dimmed, replaced with something unfathomable. Goosebumps erupted along Jessica's arms as she realized Lily wasn't merely lost. She was part of this gathering, a puppet ensnared by strings invisible to the eye, dances dictated by the eerie smiles of the spectators. "Lily! No!" Jessica screamed, and as she stepped forward to rescue her daughter, the world around her melted. The cacophony of laughter morphed into a singular sound, chilling, mocking, a beautiful nightmare. The crowd rose, shadows spilling forth, and Jessica felt the floor dissipate beneath her feet, the stage's allure calling her into an eternal spiral of torment and terror. As the tendrils of darkness reached for her, the chilling realization sunk in: there were no more familiar faces, only masks of malice and secrets. "Help me, Mommy!" Lily shrieked, and Jessica's heart shattered. Time quaked as the moment stretched, infinitely terrifying. It was the question that sent tendrils of fear spiraling through her heart. What if the very souls she trusted most were the ones pulling the strings? And in that unraveling chaos, she understood, nothing was ever truly as it seemed in Maplewood. What horrors awaited in the depths of the shadows, and could she save her daughter before becoming a part of the wretched show herself? The darkness swallowed her whole, and Jessica felt herself being tugged, pulled away from her last shred of hope. Panic surged as the cold tendrils wrapped tighter around her, whispering her deepest fears. "Mommy!" Lily's voice pierced through the encroaching void. It was a lifeline in the cacophony, but one that felt surreal. Jessica's resolve hardened with every beat of her heart, and she lunged forward into the writhing mass of shadows, but the darkness thickened. The crowd of masked figures closed in, their laughter echoing like an avalanche of terror. She reached desperately for Lily's outstretched hand, but it slipped away, fading into the swarming figures. No! Lily! The heartbeat of dread thumped in her ears. The young girl's voice entwined with the others, mimicking her, twisting into false echoes. It was dizzying. One moment she could see her daughter, then the next, she was lost again amidst the mass of laughing nightmares. "Help me, help!" Jessica's voice broke, desperation giving it an edge. She spun around, searching for the comforting outline of her child, distortions morphing the shadows into grotesque puppets. Then, one of the masked figures turned toward her. Its visage was unspeakable, a mix of human features twisted, distorted, a hollow smile so enigmatic it sent chills cascading through her. Fear dulled her limbs, but a primal scream erupted as she backed away, the reality blurring before her eyes. Suddenly, the room shifted. The stage morphed, and the horrific laughter dulled as the crowd of onlookers faded into silence. Everything quieted, save for the faint echo of her own breath. The weight of anticipation hung in the air like a storm ready to break. Above it all, a spotlight flickered to life, and in its glow, there stood Lily, still entranced, eyes unfocused, a puppet in this ballet of horror. "Mommy!" She called, but her tone was tainted. She didn't see Jessica as a savior anymore but as part of the dark game around her. Jessica's knees buckled. She could feel the despair wrapping around her heart, squeezing tighter, threatening to pull her under. There had to be a way to break this curse, this sick charade that preyed on her love. But how? As she regained her footing, a sinister realization washed over her, a truth that could tether her despair. Lily's pendant. She had found it lying in the darkness, but its meaning had shifted. It was now a beacon of their connection, a tool against the pulling shadows. Perhaps that connection could save them both. Jessica stumbled through the crowd, weaving past the masked figures that loomed over her like gaunt specters. She reached for the pendant hanging around her neck, feeling its warmth blossom against her skin as she drew closer to the stage. "Lily! Listen to me!" Jessica shouted, her voice cutting through the silence. "You have to look at me. Focus on the pendant." But Lily only stared blankly, her face painted with fear and confusion, each flicker of movement in the audience pulling her deeper into their tangled web. With determination crackling in her veins, Jessica rushed to the edge of the stage. "I command you!" she cried, holding the pendant aloft. "We are bound by love. You can't have her." The shadows recoiled, momentarily halting as Jessica felt a surge of electric energy crawling down her arms. The light from the pendant glimmered fiercely, pushing back against the darkness. Then, a deep rumble tore through the air, shaking the ground underfoot. Masks shifted, eyes shifted towards her, confusion replacing mockery. They weren't ready for this battle. But neither was she. "Come back, Lily. Fight them," Jessica urged, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm here. I love you." The shadows roared, a deafening wind spiraling through the crowd. Jessica steadied herself, though fear clawed at her lungs. She had to push through, had to save her daughter. For in this fractured place of madness, trapped by shadows, love might be their only weapon. But just as hope cracked through the gloom, a cold, sinister laughter filled the space, echoing louder than before. "You think you're the first?" A voice rasped from the depths. "We'll see if love can save you both." The ground beneath her flickered like flames as Jessica braced herself for the oncoming storm, the realization that this fight was only beginning hanging heavily in the air. What ultimate price would love demand of her, and would she have the strength to answer? Jessica squared her shoulders, feeling the weight of every breath. The shadows pulsed, the laughter morphing into a cacophony of taunts. "Love can't protect you," they jeered, a chilling symphony that echoed through her mind. She felt Lily slipping further away, clawing against the darkness, and with every heartbeat, desperation gripped her tighter. Lily's pendant glowed brighter, casting erratic shadows on the stage. "I will save you," Jessica shouted, her voice a fierce battle cry. She thrust the pendant towards the writhing mass, channeling every ounce of love, every hope, and every promise she had made to her daughter. The air crackled, something shifting within the shadows as Jessica's fury ignited. The faceless figures shrank back momentarily. Could love truly conquer all this horror? But the relief was fleeting. The shadows hissed, turning their attention back to her, the laughter swelling again, the air thick with malice. "You can't win," one of the figures bellowed, its voice dripping with disdain. "Her fate is sealed. I won. Accept that," Jessica yelled, shaking her head, eyes locked on the pendant. "We're stronger than you." The shadows seemed to ripple in response, as if her words had struck a chord. She took a step forward, eyes burning with defiance. "Lily. Focus. It's me. I need you." But the girl stood frozen, lost in an abyss of her own fear. The figures began to move closer again, advancing like a tide. Panic surged anew as memories flooded Jessica's mind. Lily's laughter, their quiet afternoons, the warmth of her tiny hand in hers. Those moments were her anchor, and somehow they must have a place here in this nightmare. "Your love means nothing," the voice taunted once more, creeping closer. Jessica felt the chill crawl up her spine, doubt gnawing at her heart. What if she was wrong? What if this love was too weak to shatter this darkness? "Stop!" she cried, forcing the thought from her mind. "This battle isn't over." With that, she raised the pendant high, the magical light creating a flickering barrier between her and the approaching figures. They hesitated, their laughter dying momentarily as the force of her resolve pulsed like a heartbeat through the air, but just as she thought she gained the upper hand, something colder than the shadows descended, a new presence, darker, more malignant, a void within the void. It twisted her resolve, a deep, chilling dread sinking its claws into her spine. Then, another figure emerged from the mass, taller, more grotesque, its mask adorned with dark symbols. "Did you think it would be this easy?" it boomed, voice vibrating with evil. "Let me show you just how deep this darkness goes." The ground shook violently. Jessica staggered, the pendant's glow flickering in tandem with her heart. The shadows coiled around the stage, a wave of horror, threatening to consume everything in its path. "Lily!" she shouted, fear slicing through clarity. "You have to fight. Break free." But it felt as if the darkness had no end. And just as the weight of despair threatened to crush her, the pendant shimmered one last time, a spark igniting within the depths of darkness. Suddenly, the air erupted with blinding light, illuminating the twisted figures. The audience gasped, the darkness recoiling as if caught in a blinding glare. Jessica felt a surge of hope, but how long could it last? "No!" the monstrous figure screamed, its form dissolving in the light, writhing as if in pain. Then, everything went black again. Jessica's heart raced, uncertainty clawing at her throat. Had they won? Or was this merely another layer of the nightmare? The laughter had ceased, replaced by an eerie silence that filled her like an unsolved riddle. "Mommy?" came Lily's quiet voice, barely audible in the stillness. "Lily!" Jessica gasped, hope flickering. But answering the call, she hesitated, dread curdling in her stomach. Was this truly her daughter? Or another trick of the dark? A chill swept through the room as she turned, and the shadows began to weave together again. The light from the pendant dimmed, the figures stirred back to life, their laughter echoing anew. What was happening? The fight had turned, the battle unrelenting. "Are you ready to lose everything?" the chilling voice whispered, sending shivers down her spine. The shadows danced closer, the faces of terror looming large. Would she be able to confront the horror waiting just beyond the edge of hope? In that treacherous moment, she braced for the impending storm, knowing one thing for sure: this wasn't over yet. What further depths of darkness awaited them? The shadows writhing around Jessica thickened, creating an oppressive atmosphere that squeezed the air from her lungs. "Lily!" she called again, heart hammering against her ribcage. The name felt raw on her tongue, a lifeline thrown into a churning sea of blackness. "Mommy!" The soft plea came again, but it trembled, uncertain and frail. In that instant, hope turned into a biting anxiety. What if Lily was trapped, lost forever? The laughter resumed, but it was different now. It echoed like the morbid giggles of children playing a cruel game, taunting her with the promise of despair. The grotesque figure at the front, silhouetted against the darkness, grinned wider, its mask adorned with shifting symbols that writhed like living snakes. "You felt the light, didn't you?" It crooned, voice distortion dripping with venom. "But light alone cannot save you. You needed more. You needed blood." The word hung in the air, a taunt turning into a dread-filled whisper. Blood? The thought sent icy tendrils down her spine. She could feel sweat trickling down her back, a cold reminder of what was at stake. The audience spectators of this horror gasped collectively, a wave of fear washing over the crowd like an impending flood. "Do you feel it?" The figure laughed, stepping closer. "The darkness feeds on hope. It craves despair. Your love is weakening, dear mother." With a manic flourish, it gestured toward the shadows that began coiling like snakes at her feet. "You must give up something precious to reclaim what is lost." Desperation clawed at her heart. She had fought so hard, had screamed, bared her soul for her child. But what was the price demanded of her? "I want tea." She shouted defiantly, yet doubt loomed like a storm cloud overhead. As if sensing her wavering spirit, the shadows surged forward, whispering promises and nightmares. What could she possibly sacrifice? The thought of losing Lily paralyzed her with terror, battling against the instinct to protect her at all costs. The pendant flickered, its pulse growing weaker. "You want her back? Then let her go." The mask snarled, desire twisting its features further into lunacy. Jessica staggered back, the shadow tide surging towards her. "No. You don't understand." "Her spirit, my love," she pleaded, clenching her fists around the pendant, but her voice faltered. In the distance, Lily's image began to shimmer, silhouetted against a dim glow, as if she were a fragile light just beyond reach. "Mommy?" came a faint echo, fragile and filled with longing. Were tears brimming in her eyes? Was she fighting against something fierce and relentless? "Fight for me, baby. Break free." Jessica cried out, feeling her heart thud painfully against despair. Her legs trembled. The overwhelming sensation of being crushed by unseen weights nearly knocked her to the ground. The shadows hesitated again, a flicker, a crack in the darkness. Jessica seized her chance, driven by a desperate raw energy. She lifted the pendant overhead, its light flaring in response to her determination. "Listen," she shouted, forcing every ounce of hope into her words. "I won't abandon you. Not to this darkness." An ear-splitting roar erupted, the grotesque figure quaking under the weight of her defiance. The shadows writhed in agony, as if they could no longer withstand the force of her resolve. But something else emerged, a guttural growl, primal and real, underpinned by the shadows. You could hear it, feel it rattling through the bones of the earth. "Foolish woman. You've sealed your fate, and hers." The ground trembled violently, becoming a chasm of despair as the shadows reached for her, seeking to drown her in darkness once again. Fighting against the tide, Jessica knew the light would either guide her or consume her. "Stay with me, Lily. Fight." As the growls of the darkness grew deafening, she forced herself to focus. Was Lily free enough to join her, to become one with the light? Suddenly, all went quiet. Just silence, where hope struggled and despair clawed. And then she heard it, a whisper, subtle and soft, that carried with it a sliver of hope. "Mommy." A gleam caught her eye as she stared into the depths. Was that her daughter's pendant, glowing through the shadows? And there it was, a hand reaching towards her. Could it be? Did she really find Lily? Or was this yet another cruel trick, another demonic illusion meant to tease her before plunging her deeper into the darkness? The answer loomed just out of reach, as dread filled the air once more. What further horrors awaited, coiling in the shadows, waiting for their moment to strike? The silence shattered like glass, sharp and cutting. Jessica's heart raced, a furious drumbeat in her chest as she locked her eyes on that glimmer, a hand reaching out of the darkness. It trembled, barely visible, but it was unmistakably small and familiar. Her instincts screamed for her to move, to reach out, yet terror gripped her like a vice. Lily! She cried again, the name bursting forth like a gunshot into the suffocating shadows. The hand jerked, hesitated, and then withdrew. Cold panic paralyzed her as she watched it vanish, swallowed by the inky void. Why do you resist? The masked figure taunted, its voice wrapping around her like smoke. This is your chance to save your precious girl. Yet, you hesitate. It stepped closer, and the crowd gasped, their faces pale, eyes wide with horror at the madness unfolding before them. Stop! Don't you dare touch her! Jessica shouted, rage flaring within her, igniting a flicker of hope. She raised the pendant again, its glow beginning to pulse with renewed vigor, responding to her emotional surge. I want to let you take her. The laughter grew louder, mocking her defiance. Love can't resist what it needs to survive, sweet mother. What will you give up? A love for a love. It's a fair trade, is it not? The shadows writhed, beckoning with dark promises. Jessica could sense the truth in the figure's words, could feel it coiling around her resolve like a serpent squeezing the life out of its prey. If she let fear consume her, what fate awaited Lily lost in this abyss, forever beyond her reach? Everything matters, not just love. She yelled back, desperation clawing at her throat. The weight of impending loss threatened to crush her beneath its relentless burden. The ground convulsed again, sending fragments of stone erupting like angry serpents. As Jessica teetered on her feet, her gaze flicked back to where she had seen Lily's hand. The shadows trembled, momentarily still, creating a sliver of space for a thought to emerge had they truly faded away. She squeezed her eyes shut, focused on that brief moment where hope lingered. Lily, I'm here. She whispered under her breath, a silent prayer echoing in her heart. The pendant flared once more, blinding light erupting from it, igniting the darkness, churning it into glittering dust. For a split second, she felt she could fight back, yet, as quickly as it came, the shadows clawed their way back, twisting and curling like angry wraiths. You think light can conquer us? The figure hissed, its features distorting into something grotesque, more beast than human. You're mistaken. The darkness is alive, and it hungers for despair. With a sudden rush, the void surged toward her, snaking tendrils of fear curling around her legs and pulling her down. She felt the chill of icy fingers wrapping around her wrists like chains, binding her to the ground. The laughter erupted again, filling her ears with hollow echoes of lost hope. No! Lily needs me! She screamed, fighting against the suffocating grasp, struggling to maintain her grip on the pendant. She's worth everything. Then, a whisper broke through the chaos, cutting sharply through the turmoil. Mommy! Jessica's breath caught in her throat as she turned her head sharply. There it was, Lily's form, emerging from the shadows. But her daughter didn't look like the shining beacon of light she remembered. Her eyes were dark, reflecting the same malevolence swirling around them. Help me, Mommy! Lily's voice trembled in desperation, yet it was intertwined with something darker, something that sent ice-cold tendrils of dread racing down Jessica's spine. Lily? Jessica's heart twisted. What happened to you? The grotesque figure chuckled maliciously, delight written across its masked face. Look at her. She belongs to the shadows now. You can't hold on to what is lost. Jessica's world spun. The heavy dread wrapped around her heart, squeezing tighter as the shadows swirled, waiting for her decision. To fight? To let go? A loud, booming presence shook the air. Choose. The darkness roared, demanding a sacrifice. Jessica's heart pounded in her chest. One choice standing between love and despair. But the shadows closed in, poised to strike. Would that choice lead her to salvation, or would they consume them both in a wave of despair? "Mommy!" The scream echoed, but it was weaker now, fading like the light that in that critical moment, fear clashed with desperation. She had to act, but uncertainty loomed larger than the night itself. Her next move could seal the fates of them both. Would she unravel the threads of darkness or plunge deeper into its terrifying embrace? And as she grasped for a decision, the air quivered, heralding something worse lurking just beyond their reach. What awaited in the depths of that night, beyond the abyss? Jessica locked her eyes on Lily, who still hovered at the edge of darkness, her small frame nearly engulfed by the growing shadows. The girl's eyes reflected an abyss that made Jessica's heart skid to a halt. "No. You're still in there, Lily. Fight it!" she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. The laughter erupted again, a cacophony of mocking glee that filled the air like a heavy fog, pressing down on her chest. "You see? She is already lost," the figure sneered, its presence thrumming with sadistic energy. "She calls for you, but that call is not one of love, it is for you to join her. Come to the dark." Jessica felt her resolve wavering like a flame caught in a storm. With every moment, the shadows grew thicker, more insatiable, ready to consume her whole. Fear gnawed at her brain. Would losing herself be the only way to save her child? "Lily!" she shouted, her voice reflecting the pain that threatened to engulf her. "I love you. Come back to me. You can fight this." The girl's eyes flickered for a split second, something human surfacing beneath the darkness. "Mommy, help me." But then the shadows twisted violently, tendrils writhing like serpents, dragging Lily further into their clutches. Jessica felt the cold fingers of despair gripping her heart, squeezing tighter, making it almost impossible to breathe. She wasn't alone in this struggle. Every person in the crowd echoed her fear. Faces pale, mouths agape, they watched in terror, transfixed by the unfolding nightmare. Someone gasped, breaking the spell. "Don't!" Another voice screamed. The crowd stirred, their instincts battling against the inevitable. "She can't go with them." As if triggered, the nightmares surrounding them thrashed violently. The ground beneath Jessica shook, walls of darkness closing in on her, eager to drown her in despair. "Choose." The figure's voice boomed again, echoing through the cavernous void. "Love, or life? One must be sacrificed." The message was clear: sacrifice was the only way out, but at what cost? Jessica's heart thundered. Could she rip apart the essence of who she was to save her child? Could she really condemn herself to eternal darkness? The pendant flickered in her grasp, the light animating its glow waned under the weight of her fear. She closed her eyes, and in that vulnerable moment, memories of brighter days flooded her mind. Lily's laughter, her first steps, the warmth of their cuddles on cold nights. Jessica's love resonated like a beacon, illuminating her shrouded choice. "I want to do it," she gasped defiantly, clutching the pendant tighter. "You will not take my love or my life. I choose both." Time seemed infinite as she felt the darkness respond, anger radiating from the figure. Shadows screeched as they recoiled, momentarily disrupted by Jessica's refusal to submit. Was this the moment she could overpower the darkness? But the distortion started again, the darkness reforming with malicious intent. The air thickened, now suffused with accusation and wrath. "You cannot defy the darkness. You will pay." And then, a heartbreakingly familiar sound pierced the tension: a child's giggle, bright and innocent, floating through the oppressive air like a thread of hope. Jessica's heart leaped. Was it real? But as the shadows surged, they twisted that sound into a sinister echo, leaving her trembling. "Lily!" she cried, fear returning in a tsunami of pure terror. The figure grinned with ghastly delight, its eyes glinting with sadistic joy. "What's this? A false hope? You may have thought you could hold on to your love, but love is fleeting. Watch how it shatters." The laughter rose like a tidal wave, threatening to drown her in madness. The crowd backed away, whispers of panic spilling forth, some pushing against others as uncertainty scrambled their instincts. Jessica took a shuddering breath, pushing forward despite the chaos. "I will save you, Lily. I swear it," she affirmed, defiantly. But amidst the escalating dread, she sensed something worse lurking beyond the immediate despair, an unseen horror creeping up behind her like a shroud ready to strike. And with that realization, terror turned to a sharper fear. What was waiting just behind her, and would it come for them both before she could choose? The figure's laughter turned into something deeper, a low rumble that resonated through the ground. Jessica could feel the vibrations in her bones, invading her heart with fear. She spun around, breathing heavily, the air thick with anticipation, the crowd behind her fraught with uncertainty. "What do you want?" she yelled, trying to pierce the veil of darkness that loomed closer. "Why are you doing this to us?" The shadows twisted, forming into grotesque shapes that whispered of torment, each flicker of movement tinged with malice. "You already know what I want. I want to see the light extinguished. I thrive on despair, on broken bonds." The figure leaned forward, fingers elongated into claws, as if it could reach out and snatch her soul. Jessica's heart raced. "I won't let you. I can't." Something cold brushed against her neck, sending shivers down her spine. The other crowd members stirred, some backing away, others frozen as if a spell had been cast upon them. There were no more screams, no more sounds of life, just the ominous silence holding its breath. Then, in the stillness, a dark whisper echoed in her mind, insidious and enticing. "What is it worth to you, Jessica? Would you do anything to save her? Even embrace the very shadows you fear?" "No!" she screamed, but doubt darted into her mind, whispering of possibilities. Could she summon enough strength to confront this? Or would she shatter beneath the weight of her decision? Lily's small voice pierced through, trembling but resolute. "Mommy, don't listen." The shadows writhed, desperate to erase that tiny fragment of courage. Jessica clung to the warmth of her daughter's words, the last tether to her love, an anchor in the expanding abyss. A surge of determination coursed through her. "I will not be your pawn," she cried, clutching the pendant again, its light flaring against the tides of darkness. But other voices joined the cacophony. They were swirling whispers of despair from the crowd. "Let her go. It's not worth it. Stop. Save her. You must choose." Each voice twisted and faltered in the weight of the dark figure's laughter, bathing the scene with heavy dread, a cosmic game of torment played with human lives. Jessica could feel the air growing colder, life being sucked out of the space around her, an icy wreath of fear settling in her lungs. Her foot stumbled back, and with no warning, she was drawn towards the shadows. Panic seized her throat. She fought to resist, but it was like trying to hold back the tide with bare hands. "Join us," the figure hissed softly, a seductive invitation wrapped in malice. "You know you want to." Desperation surged. "Lily. Show me you're still with me." The shadows roared, twisting and turning, as Lily's figure flickered, caught in an endless push and pull. And then, an image struck Jessica like lightning. It wasn't just Lily fighting, they were one. If she gave in to despair, she would not just lose Lily. They would both be consumed. Time blurred. Was it seconds or hours? The world felt foreign, as if reality was coming undone. The crowd gasped. Her last glimmer of hope was faltering. "No, please," she mused to the air, choking on the bitter taste of despair. Suddenly, the pendant pulsed, igniting within her a warmth that defied darkness. She took a step forward, feeling the shadows shrink. "I choose love. Both of us will emerge into the light." With that declaration, a jagged crack ran through the shadows, and the laughter screeched to a halt. There were flashes of white light, blinding and loud, echoes spiraling through the void. The air crackled with intensity. What have you done? The figure shrieked, its visage contorting in rage and disbelief. At that moment, a swirl of energy engulfed them, throwing Jessica off her feet. Through the chaos, she heard Lily's voice call out again, stronger this time. "Mommy! I'm here." Could they reunite? Could love really conquer all? But just as hope appeared within reach, the walls of darkness began to close in again, revealing a deeper truth hidden in the shadows. What other horrors waited to ensnare them as they teetered on the brink of salvation? Jessica's heart pounded in her chest like a war drum. She had no choice but to push forward into the unknown, clinging to the fleeting light of her daughter's laughter as the true terror of their fate loomed ever closer. The world around Jessica splintered into shards of fear and confusion. Light and shadow fought like thunder and lightning, illuminating the faces of the crowd, now twisted into masks of dread. They were suspended in a nightmare, each soul beseeching for salvation, while the cacophony of darkness roared, hungry for despair. "Mommy!" Lily's voice, small and fragile, cut through the chaos like a lifeline. Jessica's eyes darted through the maelstrom. Her heart thudded violently as she felt the darkness trying to claw back at her. They were so close, yet something muted that promise of reunion. The shadows leered, reshaping themselves into horrific forms, twisted versions of loved ones lost, each face marked by sorrow. "Look at them, Jessica." The figure crooned, its voice now a smooth whisper, pulling at her sanity. "Are they not beautiful in their anguish? Would you trade everything for their pain to end?" "No. No. I refuse." Her hands clenched around the pendant, the warmth pulsing against her skin. But the hard truths were weaving webs in her mind. Each flicker of light reminded her of past failures, of moments when love didn't save, but merely trapped deeper in despair. The shadows thickened, swirling tighter around her like noxious smoke. She could feel the weight of their melancholy pressing down, but she couldn't give up yet. "Lily! Listen to my voice." Jessica's shout tore through the darkness, but the laughter of the figure echoed louder. "Why cling to hope when despair is so much sweeter?" It taunted. "You cannot win this. You will lose her just like every other time." Panicking, she turned her thoughts inward. Could she break through the grip of fear? The memories danced, tauntingly vivid, the moments of joy now overshadowed by grief. Each recollection of Lily's laughter was dulled under the weight of shadows. But then came a flicker, her daughter's face lit up with joy, pure and untarnished. It rekindled something in her. "No. You will not take her from me." Jessica's voice rang out, fierce and unwavering. She forged ahead, pushing through the crushing anxiety, filling her lungs with defiance. The pendant pulsated, light spilling from its core, illuminating the darkness encroaching on them. The shadows jerked back, recoiling from the radiance. The figure writhed, its shape warping in anguish. "This is not how it ends. You will obey. You just need to choose." But now, Jessica felt the light. Her love was stronger than any darkness. "I choose life. I choose hope. I choose love." Together. Light erupted in blinding waves, cascading through the darkness. The entity shrieked, a furious wail that shook the ground beneath them. The more she called upon love, the more fractured the shadows became, their shapes splintering and shattering like glass. Yet even as their world began to mend, just out of reach, a chilling realization struck. Was it enough? Could love truly vanquish the shadows forever? Or would this only be the beginning of a deeper horror? The energy consuming Jessica felt like both a caress and a burn. She could see Lily's shimmering silhouette beyond the darkness, split by the crack in reality they had created. "Mommy! Don't let go." But as she reached out, the darkness conspired once more. Walls of shadow rolled over, snatching at Jessica's limbs, pulling her away from the light. Panic surged within her. The shadows were relentless, shaping into a pulsing mass, pressing against her, dragging her deeper into despair. "Choose," the figure hissed, its voice a low rumble now tugging at her very essence. "Your daughter or your sanity? Which will you serve?" In the split second that followed, a sharp pang of fear sliced through her. As blood thundered in her ears, she caught sight of Lily, a fleeting glimpse of light in a channeling storm. Jessica's heart tightened. Time was slipping away, moments diminishing into a cold realization. Would her final choice be made in fear? And in that uncertainty, the darkness smiled wider, revealing its true nature. Could she hold on to faith in love, or would the shadows devour her entirely? The choice loomed. Before her, a dark promise hanging heavy. What disaster awaited if she faltered? The shadows pressed in tighter, curling around Jessica like a smothering blanket. The masked figure sneered, its voice dripping with contempt. "What will it be, dear mother? Stray deeper into despair, or relinquish that which you hold dear?" Panic clawed at her throat as the grotesque faces stared hungrily from the darkness. Jessica's heart pounded, reverberating through her body like a war drum threatening to shatter. "Let her go!" she shouted, digging deep for courage she barely felt. "I want to let you take my child." With fierce resolve, she held the pendant high. It pulsed vigorously, fighting against the oppressive shadows. "I choose love," she cried, her voice breaking through the thick air. "I choose to fight for her." And, in a blinding flash, the pendant erupted in a storm of light, illuminating the space and casting aside the gloom for a moment. The figures shrieked in fear, their twisted faces contorting with malevolence. They struggled as the light pushed through the darkness, cutting thickly like a sharp knife. "Stay strong, Lily. I'm coming." Jessica remembered the warmth of her daughter, the laughter that lit up their home, the connection that bound them together. The shadows began to recede, flailing in anguish as the light incrementally grew stronger. Yet, just when Jessica thought she could break through, the viscous darkness crashed back, reinvigorated, and the figure loomed even larger. "Your love is weak, Jessica. It will not save her. It only makes this all the more delicious." It tilted its head, dark eyes glinting with malice. "You could save your precious girl, but what depth of despair are you willing to embrace? What will you sacrifice?" Time hung heavy around her. The slanted shadows writhed, feeding off her fear, whispering sweet temptations into her ears. Jessica's heart teetered between despair and defiance, but the thought of losing Lily ignited a fire deep within her. Against the surrounding chaos, she breathed, clearing her mind. "I refuse to sacrifice my love." The figure grew more monstrous, muscles rippling beneath the grotesque mask. "Your love?" it hissed, almost laughing. "What could a fleeting emotion like that give? It is easily snuffed out." Chaos erupted around them, the ground shaking as if the world was about to swallow them whole. Jessica's heart raced, but a flicker of an idea struck. Her love could forge a path if only she believed fiercely enough. "Focus on me, Lily. You have to come back to me," she shouted. The shadows recoiled momentarily, as if caught by the strength in her voice. The concept of rejection was a foreign notion among the curses of despair there. A flash of light danced, the outline of her daughter shimmered amidst the wreckage of darkness. "Mommy." Lily's voice pierced the chaos, sweet and clear, but also tinged with haunting fear. "Help me, please." "Yes, love. I'm coming." Jessica reached out, the surge of energy from the pendant pouring out as hope wove itself into every part of her being. "Mommy. I'm trying." Lily's form flickered, struggling against the encroaching shadows. Jessica could see her daughter's light flickering like a flame battling a fierce wind. They were bound together, and the darkness had no hold over that bond. With all her might, Jessica pushed through the surging darkness, the light from the pendant illuminating the path. She would have to face the depths of her fears to retrieve her child. Together, Lily! She shouted, urging her daughter to fight. Take my hand, feel my love. As she stepped closer, the shadows shrieked, their form disfiguring in anger. You'll pay. The chilling voice echoed, battling against hope. You cannot escape this fate. But fear took a back seat to resolve. They would not lose this fight. Jessica, emboldened, burst through the last line of shadows, and in an instant, she and Lily's hands connected, illuminating the room with pure brilliance. In that moment, the darkness shrank back in horror. The cacophony silenced, replaced by a heartfelt beat that pulsed with love, resilience, and unity. Their bond forged a new path, stronger and brighter than any shadow could dare obstruct. Mommy! Lily gasped, her small hand squeezing tighter. The warmth surged, cascading over them, a tide of undeniable love filling the air. Then, in a breathtaking twist, the darkness began to dissolve, the grotesque figure faltered, its mask slipping, revealing nothing but shadows beneath. No! You will not win! It shrieked, rallying against the blossoming light. Jessica and Lily stood firm together, their grip unyielding. We choose love. The daughter echoed, and with that, the shadows shrieked in unbearable agony as they were drawn into the light, dissolving into nothingness. The light cascaded through the room like a cleansing wave, and Jessica shuddered at the emerging restoration. The masked figures, a distant memory, were swept away like dust in the wind, while the gym brightened, bursting into colors once more. Together, they stood unbroken, amidst the flicker of fading shadows. Jessica held Lily close, their breaths mixing as they took in the return of the familiar, a place filled with laughter, warmth, and love. Now and always, Jessica whispered, holding her daughter tightly, triumph surging through her. Lily looked up, her eyes glimmering with trust. I knew you would come for me. And as the chaos of the dance faded behind them, they stepped into a world renewed, ready to embrace the light, knowing they had conquered the darkness together. As the dawn broke outside Maplewood Elementary, a new day beckoned, not without whispers of what they had faced. But together they would forge their path forward, weaving the fabric of love that held their hearts intact, come what may. Now this is it, folks. If you've made it this far, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. I want to hear your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.